नमस्कार दोस्तों। आज मेरी ये कहानी डायरी ऑफ अ यंग गर्ल एनी फ्रैंक की आज हम 3 जुलाई से पढ़ना शुरू करेंगे। आपको तो पता है मैंने ये कहानी पढ़नी शुरू की है आपके साथ, तो आज हम इसको फिर पढ़ेंगे, आगे कंटिन्यू करेंगे। ये है दिन फ्राइडे 3 जुलाई 1942। डियर किटी, हैरी विजिटेड अस yesterday to meet my parents. I had bought a cream cake, sweets, tea, and fancy biscuits, quite a spread, but neither Harry nor I felt like sitting stiffly side by side indefinitely. So we went for a walk, and it was already 8 when he brought me home. Daddy was very cross and thought it was very wrong of me because it is dangerous for Jews to be out after 8 o'clock, and I had to promise to be in 10 to 8 in future. Tomorrow I have been invited to his house. My girlfriend Sophie teases me the whole time about Harry. I am honestly not in love. Oh no, I can surely have boyfriends. No one thinks anything of that. But one boyfriend, or BO as mother calls him, seems to be quite different. Harry went to see Eva one evening and she told me that she asked him, "Who do you like best? Fanny or Annie?" He said, "It's nothing to do with you." But when he left, they had not chatted together anymore the whole evening. Now, listen, it's Annie. So long, and don't tell a soul. And like a flash, he was gone. It's easy to see that Harry is in love with me. Rather fun for a change, Margot would say. Harry is a decent lad. I agree, but he is more than that. Mummy is full of praise, a good looking boy, a well behaved, nice boy. I am glad that the whole family approve of him. He likes them too, but he thinks my girlfriends are very childish, and he is quite right. Sunday morning, 5 July 1942. Dear Kitty, our examination results were announced in the Jewish theatre last Friday. I could not have hoped for better. My report is not at all bad. I had one Vicks Satis, a 5 for algebra, two sixes, and the rest were all 7 or 8s. They were certainly pleased at home, although over the question of marks, my parents are quite different from most. They don't care a bit whether my reports are good or bad. As long as I am well and happy and not too cheeky, then the rest will come by itself. I am just the opposite. I don't want to be a bad pupil. I should really have stayed in the seventh form in the Montessori school, but was accepted for the Jewish secondary. When all the Jewish children had to go to Jewish schools, the headmaster took Liz and me conditionally. After a bit of persuasion, he relied on us to do our best, and I don't want to let him down. My sister Margot has her report too. Brilliant as usual. She would move up with "Come, Lord," if that existed at school. She is so brainy. Daddy has been at home a lot lately, as there is nothing for him to do at business. It must be rotten to feel so superfluous. Mr. Kufius has taken over Travis and Mr. Kraler, the firm Colin and Company, when we walked across our little square together a few days ago. Daddy began to talk of us going into hiding. I asked him why on earth he was beginning to talk of that already. "Yes, Annie," he said, "you know that we have been taking food, clothes, furniture to other. बेटा इसमें कलर लगा हुआ है।
किसमें?
इसमें कलर घोला था।
तो आपने साफ नहीं किया
वो कलर निकला कहाँ साफ करने से? देख उसमें, ये वही कटोरी बाहर से ही दिख रही है कलर इसमें।
हटा देती हूँ।
We don't want our belongings to be seized by the Germans, but we certainly don't want to fall into their clutches ourselves. So we shall disappear of our own accord and not wait until they come and fetch us. But Daddy, when would it be? He spoke so seriously that I grew very anxious. Don't you worry about it. We shall arrange everything. Make the most of your carefree young life while you can. That was all. Oh, may the fulfillment of these somber words remain for distant yet. Wednesday, 8 July 1942. Dear Kitty, years seem to have passed between Sunday and now. So much has happened as is it is just as if the whole world had turned upside down, but I am still alive, Kitty, and that is the main thing, Daddy says. Yes, I am still alive indeed, but don't ask where or how, you would not understand a word. So I will begin by telling you what happened on Sunday afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Harry had just gone, but was coming back later. Someone rang the front doorbell. I was lying lazily reading a book on the veranda in the sunshine, so I did not hear it. A bit later, Margot appeared at the kitchen door looking very excited. The SS have sent a call-up notice for Daddy. She whispered, Mummy has gone to see Mr. Van Dan already. Van Dan is a friend who worked with Daddy in the business. It was a great shock to me. A call-up, everyone knows what that means. I picture concentration camps and lonely cells. Should we allow him to be doomed to this? Of course, we won't go, declared Margot while we waited together. Mummy has gone to the Van Dans to discuss whether we should move into our hiding place tomorrow. The Van Dans are going with us, so we shall be 7 in all. Silence, we could not make talk anymore. Thinking about Daddy, who, little knowing what was going on, was visiting some old people in the Jots. Invalid waiting for Mummy. The heat and suspense all make us overwhelmed and silent. Suddenly the bell rang again. That is Harry. I said, don't open the door. Margot held me back, but it was not necessary as we heard Mummy and Mr. Van Dan downstairs talking to Harry. Then they came in and closed the door behind them. Each time the bell went, Margot or I had to creep softly down to see if it was Daddy, not opening the door to anyone else. Margot and I were spent out of the room. Van Dan wanted to talk to Mummy alone. When we were alone together in our bedroom, Margot told me that the call up was not for Daddy's but for her. I was more frightened than ever and began to cry. Margot is 16. Would they really take girls of that age away alone? But thank goodness she won't go. Mummy said so herself. That must be what Daddy meant when he talked about us going into hiding. Where would we go? In a town or the country? In a house or a cottage? When, how, where? These were questions I was not allowed to ask, but I could not get them out of my mind. Margot and I began to pack some of our most vital belongings into a school sachet. The first thing I put in was this diary, hair curlers, handkerchiefs, school books, a comb, old letters. I put in the craziest things, the idea that we were going into hiding. But I am not sorry, memories mean more to me than dresses. At 5 o'clock, Daddy finally arrived and we phoned Mr. Coffins to ask if he could. अब डिस्टर्ब करते मैं इसीलिए आप लोग के सामने नहीं बनाती वीडियो. If he could clean around in the evening. Van Dan went and fetched me. Meep has been in the business with Daddy since 1933 and has become a close friend likewise. Her brand new husband, Hank Meep, came and took some shoes, dresses, coats, underwear and stockings away in her bag, promising to return in the evening. Then silence fell in the house. Not one of us felt like eating anything. It was still hot and everything was very strange. We let our large upstairs room to a certain Mr. Godsmith, a divorced man in his 30s who appeared to have nothing to do on this particular evening. We simply could not get rid of him. Without being rude, he hung about until 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, Mike and Hank Van Scented arrived. Once again, shoes, stockings, books, and underclothes disappeared into Map's bag and Hank deep. And Although I knew that it would be my last night in my own bed, I fell asleep immediately and did not wake up until Mummy called me at 5:30 the next morning. Luckily, it was not so hot as Sunday. Warm rain fell steadily all day. We put on heaps of clothes as if we were going to the North Pole. The sole reason being to take our clothes with us. No Jewy in our situation would have dreamed of going out with a suitcase full of clothing. I had on two vests, three pairs of pants, a dress on top of that, a skirt, jacket, summer coat, two pairs of stockings, less of shoes, woolly cap, scarf, and still more. I was nearly stifled before we are started, but no one inquired about that. Margot filled her sachet with school books, fetched her bicycle, and rode off behind Mike into the unknown. As far as I am concerned, you see, I still did not know where our secret hiding place was to be. At 7:30, the door closed behind us. Moti, my little cat, was the only creature to whom I said farewell. She would have a good home and with the neighbors. This was all written in a letter addressed to Mr. Godsmith. There was one proud of meat in the kitchen for the cat, breakfast thing lying on the table, stripped beds, all giving the impression that we had left helter skelter, but we did not care about impression. We only wanted to get away, only escape and arrive safely. Nothing else. Continued tomorrow. Thursday, 9 June 9 July 1942. Dear Kitty, so we walked in the pouring rain. Daddy, Mammy, and I, each with a school sachet and shopping bag filled to the brim with all kinds of things thrown together anyhow. We got sympathetic looks from people on their way to work. You could see by their faces how sorry they were. They could not offer us a lift. The gaudy yellow star spoke for itself. Only when we were on the road, old Mummy and Daddy began to tell me bits and pieces about the plane. For months, as many of our goods and chattels and necessities of life as possible had been sent away, and they were sufficiently ready for us to have gone into hiding of our own accord on July 16. The plan had to be speeded up 10 days because of all the call-ups, so our quarters would not be so well organized. Our out we had to make the best of it. The hiding place itself would be in the building where Daddy has his office. It will be hard for outsiders to understand, but I shall explain that later on. Daddy did not have many people working for him. Mr. Kraler, Coffins, Meaves, and Eileen Watson, a 23-year-old typist, who all knew of our arrival. Mr. Watson, Ellie's father, and two boys worked in the warehouse. They had not been told. I will describe the building where there is a large warehouse on the ground floor which is used as a store. The front door no, to the house is next to the warehouse door, and inside the front door is a second doorway which leads to a staircase. There is another door at the top of the stair with a frosted glass window in it, which has office written in black letter across it. That is the large main office where very big, very light, and very full Ellie, Mike, and Mr. Cookie's work there in the daytime. A small dark room containing the safe, a wardrobe, and a large cupboard leads to a small, somewhat dark second office. Mr. Kraler and Mr. Van Dan used to sit there. Now it is only Mr. Kraler. One can reach Kraler's office from the passage, but only via glass door which can be opened from the inside, but now easily from the outside. From Kraler's office, a long passage goes past the coal syrup, four steps, and leads to the showroom of the whole building. The private office, dark, dignified furniture, linoleum and carpets on the floor, radio, smart lamp, everything's first class. Next door, there is a room kitchen with a hot water faucet and a gas stove. Next door, the WC, that is the first floor. A wooden staircase leads from the downstairs passes to the next floor. There is a small landing at the top. There is a door at each end of the landing. The left one leading to a storeroom at the front of the house and to the attics. One of those really steep Dutch staircases runs from the side to the other door opening onto the street. The right hand door leads to our secret annex. No one would ever guess that there would be so many rooms hidden behind that plain grey door. There is a little step in front of the door and then you are inside. There is a steep staircase immediately opposite the entrance. On the left, a tiny passage brings you into a room which was to become the Frank family's bed. Sitting room in next door, a smaller room, study and bedroom for the two young ladies of the wash basin and a small WC compartment with another door of leading to Margot's and my room. If you go up the next flight of stairs and open the door, you are simply amazed that there could be such a big light room in such an old house by the canal. There is a gas stove in this room thanks to the fact that it was used as a laboratory, and a sink. This is now the kitchen for the Van Dan Stuffle. Besides being general living room, dining room and scullery, a little tiny corridor room will become Peter Van Dan's apartment. Then just as on the lower landing there is a large attic, so there you are. I have introduced you to the whole of our beautiful secret annex. तो अगर आपको मेरी ये कहानी अच्छी लगी है तो प्लीज़ चैनल को लाइक करें, सब्सक्राइब करें। और आज के लिए इतना ही, बाकी आगे कल मैं आपको पढ़ के सुनाऊंगी आगे स्टोरी में क्या है। तो बने रहें मेरे साथ मेरी स्टोरी में। तब तक के लिए